Hi guys, welcome to the first chapter of this podcast, and I'm your host, the Calcutta Bibliophile. So, the idea behind this podcast is to talk books and all things bookish, as you might have guessed already. And you listening to this to find your next read as you do your chores or just something mindless. More on that later. But now, without further ado, let's just jump into today's chapter, and today we're talking about romance. Emily Henry's romance novels specifically. I'll come clean, I don't really read much romance. I'm more of a fantasy and thrillers kind of a reader. But also facts, I have read 3 Emily Henrys this year alone after I was looking to explore more genres and honestly take a little break from fantasy. So I first heard about Emily Henry through BookTube and then saw people reading a lot of her books on book threads in 2023 and finally found space in my never-ending TBR in 2024. And boy, I cannot stop. So how did she become my latest favorite and a definite auto-buy author? Now, this is going to sound contradictory, but that is maybe because her romances aren't really romances, or at least aren't just romances. This has played a big role in making me a fan. But before I delve into all of that, there are 3 books that I have read so far by her, and these are People We Meet on Vacation, Book Lovers, and Happy Place. She debuted with her adult romance Beach Read in 2020, and it's still on my TBR with the latest release Funny Story. But Beach Read isn't even her first rodeo, so to say. She debuted in 2016 with her YA novel, The Love That Split the World. And while I would not be going into the plots of the books in detail, there's a recurring theme connecting at least the 3 of the books that I have read, and I suspect maybe Beach Read as well. And that's travel. Traveling, going on a trip, vacationing. But these 3 books aren't really about finding love while traveling. No, these aren't as mindless as that. The protagonists almost always know each other in their personal or professional lives. In People We Meet on Vacation, it's literally 2 friends, 2 lifelong friends who take trips together every year, and them realizing their feelings, and the beauty of it really lies in them being estranged initially and then to finally find their way through to each other on a trip. In Book Lovers, it's 2 professional rivals, one finding out that the other is actually from the small town featured in the bestseller that she had pitched to him, and he had brutally shot down. Surprise, surprise, he is actually from that town and has a family run bookstore there. It's kind of enemies to lovers, but it never really gets vicious. I mean, dear old Charlie Lastra would never. Happy Place, on the other hand, is a second chance romance where the couple is just out of their 8-year relationship when they are invited onto their yearly friends vacation. Plot twist, they haven't really told their friends that they have called it all off, and they're forced to pretend that they're still together. Yes, there is only one bed. Feel free to guess which one of these I've loved the best, and if you're already following me on Threads, I know you know. You see the recurring theme here of moving away from the city life, right? It just has to be the most fascinating aspect of her stories for me. Is this a new take on the idyllic? Is this something like that love cannot really bloom or thrive in the cityscape, and you really need to escape it to actually feel. I think if it is, then I would probably actually agree with that one. But how is this more than just a romance? One word would be, well, it's the well rounded characters that the stories have, that each of the novels have. The world of the novels don't just rely on the characters or just revolve around the main two protagonists. Friendships outside the main relationship are a big part of the stories, and they significantly influence the plot. Another aspect is the parenting, or how the characters were basically brought up and how much it shapes them as people, and the changing dynamic between the child and the parent and their children, like striking a balance between work and family, and by extension their relationships. I guess this is the most striking part, as the stories take on the tone of introspection and life changing decisions, and the romance is part of the story, maybe definitely an important part, but it not the whole story, which is so much lifelike. My favorite of the lot, obviously, if you can't tell, has been Book Lovers, from the very first page, from the very first sentence, even. The premise was that the relationship dynamics and the professions. I laughed, cried, and did some introspection with them. Happy Place was a close second, with a bit more introspection and a lot more buckets of tears. If you have ever felt like a misfit at all in your life, please know that this is going to hit close to home. And the people we meet on vacation, even though I'm not a fan of the whole friends to lovers trope, it was a heartwarming story that got me into this world. So looking forward to picking up the next one, funny story. Stay tuned and hope to see you next week.